Information comes in many forms and can be found in many places. Sources of information like books, articles, films, reports, blogs, tweets, and others reflect the knowledge, expertise, and credibility of their creators. The way we evaluate information sources depends on a lot of different things. What do we need that information for? In what context will we be using it? And how quickly do we need it? Sometimes our need for information is fairly simple and low stakes, and if what we find isn't 100% timely or accurate, it's not a big deal. For instance, deciding whether or not to carry an umbrella to class requires a very different level of information than does a research report on the effects of climate change on water levels and Lake Michigan shoreline erosion. If the information in the first scenario is wrong, the consequences aren't very severe. If, however, our information need is one that requires a high degree of accuracy and trustworthiness, we have to know how to question and evaluate the sources to make sure they meet our needs and our standards. To effectively evaluate information, we need to understand the idea of authority. Authority is a type of influence recognized within a group. Different groups or communities may recognize different types of authority, and as capable users of information, we need to view authority within the context that we're working, since we may sometimes have to follow certain rules of information use. We have all witnessed firsthand how information is created and disseminated on the topic of the COVID-19 pandemic. Most of the early information on the topic came in the form of news reports and social media comments. With so many stories coming at us, it was and remains a challenge to separate fact from opinion, evidence from anecdote. The confusing amount of information about mask wearing is a great example of the importance of context and authority in critically examining the information we encounter. Who's talking? What makes them worth listening to? What is the goal? The answers to these questions are what help us determine the context and the authority of the information and its creator. To evaluate information, we can look at subject expertise. Does the speaker or writer have the knowledge and experience to back up their words? Check credentials. Look for references. Love may be blind, but good research isn't. It looks around for evidence. Position in society. Holding public office or having celebrity status doesn't necessarily make one knowledgeable on a subject. We hold people up as authority figures for lots of reasons, not all of them good. A senator isn't an authority on infectious disease, but a virologist doesn't have extensive experience in setting public health policy. We need to consider the context in which we listen to who's speaking. Credibility indicators, such as peer review and cited references. Identifying indicators of reliability or authority can help us gauge credibility of information. But even with these checks, there is the understanding that no system is perfect and that bias still exists and mistakes happen. Editorial boards for academic journals and magazines work to limit the publication of sloppy research and fake news, and checking someone's sources is always a good idea. Packaging. We shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but the format of information does give us a good indication of its purpose and audience. Tweets are of the moment. News articles aim to get information out quickly. Books cover topics in depth, and scholarly articles use evidence to support an idea. Context is everything, and we need to use the right information for the job. Agenda. Information is created for lots of reasons: to inform, to persuade, to entertain, to sell. An article on mask wearing during a pandemic may be written for any of these reasons, and depending on your research goal, not all are appropriate. Again, do your homework. Who's created the information and why? Bias. Information sources reflect their creators' expertise and credibility, but they can also indicate biases, whether intentional or not. It's important for information seekers to know that some information outlets privilege some sources of information over others. In recent years, more voices from marginalized parts of society are being heard and published, but we've got a way to go. When we know this, we are better able to look for evidence of suitability and ask for help to find views and perspectives not represented in the search results we turn up. Evaluating information is a necessary skill that takes time and practice, but with some thought and effort, you can become an expert user of information. If you have questions, reach out to your librarian or a peer consultant at the library's Knowledge Market.